Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis.Moddison. I'm a realtor with eXp Realty, and I'm also an affiliate with Homes for Heroes, which means if you are a law enforcement professional, teacher, nurse, EMT, or first responder in the military, either active, reserve, or veteran, hit me up. In Southern Oregon, I can help save you some money either with buying or selling a home. Today's topic, everybody, market crash. Is it coming? Who knows? Today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about some of that, and then at the end, I'll give you my final prediction. So, some things to think about. There are three essential questions for you to consider when we're discussing a market crash. First off, you could be right. I've had this conversation with several people recently who said, I'm just going to wait, the market is going to crash, it's going to crash, it's going to crash. We did see that in 2007, and we have seen that throughout history. You could be right, but I'm going to tell you some things that I'm seeing on the ground and just kind of point to some things, and you can come up with your own conclusion. I'll come up with my conclusion at the end. So, three essential questions. Will house prices come down in 2021? Is now a good time to buy, or should I wait to buy? Those are the three basic questions I'm going to address today. So, will house prices come down in 2021 in Ashland? Well, it's really hard to say that they will, and here's why. Here's what we saw. Back in March of 2020, the housing market froze. Everybody put things on pause. There was a lot of fear, and not a lot of people wanted to either A, move houses, or B, invite people into their house in order to sell their house. So that caused everything to come to a grinding halt. So, what happened next? Well, we were maybe anticipating a big collapse of the economy, but that didn't happen. Of course, the stimulus money was part of that helped people who were unable to work make sure that they could pay their bills, but we did not see the big collapse that some people had predicted. And why is that? Well, it's because prices maintained stable, or in some cases went up, right? We were familiar, most of us, with the cost of lumber and building supplies in the last year. That's a major factor to keeping home prices up in 2020, especially in Ashland, Oregon. Also, when everything froze, homes became more important. It became more valuable where you lived. We spent a lot more time at home, and I don't know about you, but anytime I've been into Home Depot or Lowe's or Diamond in the last year, or Ashland Lumber, anytime I've been to any of those places in the last year, it has been packed. There are a lot of people who are spending money on improvements for the home, which means home equity is going up, which is something we didn't have in 2007, 2008. We actually saw decline in equity. Prices were somewhat inflated. How? Well, we know now by the bad mortgages. So the subprime mortgages were a big part of 2007, 2008. And I can tell you now, mortgage lenders are not making that same mistake. So my clients have to go through extensive paperwork in order to get approved for a loan. In fact, I remember when Alyssa and I were buying a home, we were blown away at every little thing we had to write a letter of explanation for. We did this, or we sold this car, and we had to explain where this money came from and how this income was, because the documentation standards are much higher than they were in 2007, 2008, which means banks are not handing out money to unqualified borrowers. So that's a really strong argument that aspect of the housing market is going to hold. Will housing prices come down? Well, they should. There should be some kind of up and down motion to a healthy market. It is unhealthy and unsustainable for housing prices, or any prices, to keep going up or to keep sliding. There should be gradual bumps along that curve, and that's what we should be looking towards. So yes, we've seen some movement up. Maybe now we're starting to see a plateau, and maybe even prices come down, or some fluctuation in that regard. So what have prices done? Well, we've seen them continually go up. And why? Well, a big reason is the absorption rate. So the absorption rate is essentially the number of homes on the market now versus the number of homes that are selling, and how long it would take at that same rate to absorb or to buy all the homes. At one point in Ashland, we were down to less than a month of inventory. That means that no new homes came to the market. We would run out of homes in a month. That's an incredible statistic. What that means is that there's just not a lot of supply, and demand is higher. And again, we know that when supply is low and demand is high, it's going to push prices up. That's an economic fundamental. Another thing that's driving prices, are the historically low interest rates. I know you've heard this. I know that you've heard it, but here's the deal. When the interest rates are so low, the buying power goes up. Why? Well, because that means that you can afford more principal as opposed to the interest. You're paying less interest, which means that you can afford more principal in that regard. A mortgage lender who's really going to be the best person to talk to about this. Make sure that you get some really good ideas on your interest rates before you lock in and before you make your final purchase. Another aspect that has impacted Ashland is the Almeda fire. We lost 2,300 housing units in that fire. Over 3/4 of them were manufactured mobile homes, which has really put a lot of pressure on that segment of the housing market. Well, how does that impact Ashland? Well, number one, it's very hard to find anything in that low price range because they are gobbled up instantly, which has pushed prices up, which helps to sustain the market, which again points to likely not another crash coming in the short term. Will prices come down? Yes, they will. They have to. Lumber prices have already started to move down. Construction prices are starting to move down. We're hoping to see some more building in Ashland. There's been talk, of course, there's been talk for a long time about low-income housing and how to really best support that and how to make sure that there's opportunities for people of all income levels to afford housing in Ashland. That's a big component. So is rent. It is so hard to find a rental right now, and because there are no rentals, it has pushed many would-be renters into the buy market as they've struggled to find a place to stay. So the question is, should you buy now? Well, unfortunately, I left my crystal ball at home. But here's what we know. If you're going to buy now, you're going to find that interest rates are still at historic lows, even though they've moved up slightly. Also, you'll find that there are still going to be good deals out there. People still need to move. Somebody's still getting another job 2 states away, or somebody still needs to come here because they've got a new job at the school district. These things will keep the prices moving, and it will help in the long run to bring the prices down as there's more and more supply on the market. That is a good. Well, maybe you should wait. Maybe you're thinking, you know what, I'm not so sure, I'm not convinced that there's not a crash coming. And you know what, people like me in 2007 said that same thing. That's okay. If you want to wait, you should wait. If you're convinced that prices are coming down, you may be right. And if that happens, send me a message and say, haha, told you so. Comment below and say, haha, you were totally wrong. And I will be the first person to own that. But we're seeing household balance sheets in better shape now than they were 2 years ago, which is an indication of increased buying power of people, especially here in Southern Oregon. So, will the market crash in Ashland in 2021? My prediction is not a crash, but maybe a correction. And you might be like, oh, what a cop-out that is. But it's true. Maybe the prices are going to start to move down a little bit. We'll get some additional homes on the market, and we'll continue to find that sweet spot with an absorption rate of near 6 months, so that it's more of a balanced market for you as a buyer and for you as a seller. And if I can help you in either one of those ways, or if you have any questions at all, please reach out. I'm very happy to help.